Am I the a-hole? We didn't go to my daughter's wedding because she had it at a vineyard and her dad is a recovering alcoholic. Trying to keep this short, but bear with me. My daughter is 31. Growing up, my husband was an alcoholic. He was never physically violent, but he could be cranky when drunk. Most often, he just wasn't as present and active a parent as he could have been. He tried treatment several times, but unfortunately relapsed with only a few months of sobriety in between. Fortunately, 2 years ago he went to inpatient treatment and has been sober ever since. My daughter got married a year ago, at which point he was 1 year sober. However, he still felt fragile enough in his sobriety that he did not feel comfortable around alcohol. The problem? My daughter, our only child, had booked her wedding venue, ceremony, and reception at a vineyard. There was going to be wine everywhere and a fully open bar. When she booked it, he'd been sober for 4 months. We begged and pleaded with her to change venues, offering to cover any related fees, but she refused. About a month before, I told her we couldn't come if she had it there, and she absolutely exploded. She called him a worthless drunk shitty father, me a terrible mom and an enabler who loves mothering him more than being a mother to her own kid. She left. Despite being extremely hurt, I called her and said we'd love to take her and her husband for a beautiful dinner and watch the wedding video / look at the pictures afterwards. She basically said, if we didn't come, she's done with us. We didn't go. I didn't feel right leaving my husband home knowing he'd be incredibly sad to miss his daughter's day and knowing she'd probably never speak to him again. Since then, she's gone totally no contact with us. I've even tried sending letters to her via her in-laws, but they just returned them to us saying they don't want to get involved. I found out my daughter was pregnant from a childhood friend of hers. I'm heartbroken every single day and don't feel like anyone understands. Am I the a-hole? You're the a-hole. How many occasions did you guys miss because of his drinking? And now it's because he's not drinking? She just can't win, can she? You would have found a way to make it work. You guys go to the ceremony and he or you both head out before the reception. Or just you go to the wedding and he chills at the hotel. It was your daughter's wedding. Fully agree that you're the a-hole. Adding to this, did you insist that the entire wedding was alcohol free? If you did, that is a lot to ask from them when you're not paying for the wedding. If you didn't, how was your husband going to cope? If he can deal with a little bit of alcohol drunk around him, then for such a momentous occasion, he should have been able to keep that same mindset. Regardless as mum, you should have gone, even if it meant leaving your husband at home. You didn't want to hurt his feelings, but were happy to destroy your daughter's and consequently ruin your relationship with her. You're the a-hole. Part of recovery is being able to function as a normal human in society. I'm a recovered alcoholic and have been to plenty of weddings, even an early sobriety, and I didn't turn into a reffing lunatic and start trying to guzzle everything in sight, nor did I want to. Triggers are a cop-out to not take responsibility for yourself. The world is not going to stop drinking because you do. Should you work as a bartender? No, probably not. But expecting everyone to cater to you and breaking their daughter's heart by refusing to go to the wedding because some guests may be drinking wine is absolutely selfish and self-centered. I doubt he is actually working a program if he is white-knuckling his way through sobriety. The daughter is right that Op is 100% an enabler, and I'm sad her parents failed her this way. It's probably not the first time. She just can't win, can she? This was my exact thought. Op, you're acting like the fact that she got married in a vineyard is somehow a big deal. A vineyard is basically a big field, and they tend to be a lot more affordable than other venues. You complained about the open bar, which implies that what you really want is for her to have a sober wedding. You're asking your daughter to do something that a lot of people think would ruin their wedding, like it's no big deal. So, her whole life she deals with a Sounds like pretty terrible alcoholic father. Instead of manning up, asking you to be his bodyguard and keep him sober, doing whatever he needs to do, he insists his daughter once again bear the brunt of the consequences of his addiction. Then, you had two choices. One, stay home with your husband, who is facing the consequences of his own actions, and make him maybe a tiny bit less sad, because you're also not at the wedding, but devastate your daughter, who has no responsibility here. 2. Go to your daughter's wedding, because none of this is her fault, and let your husband either come, or be sad in a bed of his own making. You chose one, putting a marginal level of comfort for your husband, who caused all this, above your daughter, who is the victim for lack of a better word. But, you're going to take her to dinner, so that should make it better. Based on this letter, I'm guessing this was not the first time he thoughtlessly asked for huge sacrifices from her to accommodate his addiction, and you were a chronic enabler. I'm guessing the wedding was the last straw. You're the a-hole. And leave her poor in-laws alone. Cranky lol. Yeah, my kid's dad was cranky as an alcoholic too. He was also mean. He bullied the kids when I wasn't around, and everyone else that he could mentally and sometimes physically. And by absent I'm assuming she means, like my ex, that everything he wanted to do was more important than his kid, always and every time. So yeah, I can see why Op's daughter would be upset that his alcoholism messed up her whole life, and now at a year sober, he still couldn't be there for her. And to make it even worse, her mom couldn't even manage to be there for her, which says a lot about how important her kid ever was to her. Here's what I think is happening. Dad is addicted to booze, mom is addicted to dad and his issues. So, who in the hell was able to have time for the daughter, who probably had to grow up fairly neglected in their codependent household? I'm guessing these two parents were too far up each other's addictions to have much time to devote to their child. Now as an adult, she is still the last priority of these parents. Man, I feel awful for the daughter in this. I think her cutting off contact with them was honestly the best thing she could do for herself at this point. They will just continue to hurt her if she lets them. Oh, I almost forgot. You're the a-hole op. I got so angry, and I started typing furiously to get it all out, and I almost forgot to say to Op that you and your husband are most assuredly the biggest assholes in this situation. I would like to encourage you both to get some therapy and make it a point to tell them how crappy you have both been to your daughter, and ask them to please help you both find a way to be better parents if your daughter ever gives you another chance. Because if she ever does give you one more chance, which would be a miracle at this point, but maybe, if she knows you are getting help for her, maybe she will consider it, and you blow it again. I don't think you will ever get another one. You would be so very lucky to get another chance after this. If it ever does come, you better be prepared to make her a priority for once in her life. How is a vineyard wedding different from any other wedding with an open bar? Did you expect her to have a dry wedding because her father is an alcoholic? If he had an eating disorder, would you have expected her not to have cake at her wedding? Why could he not have chosen to come to the wedding ceremony? Surely he could have left before the reception? You did prioritize your husband over your daughter BTW. You could have attended without him. You chose not to. Yeah, I was close to not an a-hole, because I understand that at 4 months sober, that sobriety is so tenuous you might want to avoid all social drinking. But I just can't understand why Op did not go solo. Because her husband would be sad if only alone he had to suffer the consequences his addiction? Because his daughter having mom at the wedding would make him lonely? Jesus Christ, he is a grown man. You literally left your daughter standing with no parents at her wedding because your husband is a recovering addict. Plus, why couldn't he go to the ceremony? No one is drinking during the I-dos. No one is drinking during the photos. It doesn't matter if it's a vineyard or a chapel. The place is surrounded by grapes on the vine, not open bottles. Honestly, it just sounds like Op wanted her to change her wedding to suit Op, and, when daughter didn't, Op pulled a vindictive stunt she assumed would blow over. And instead here she is with the stupid prize from a stupid game. You're the a-hole. No one's an a-hole. It sucks for your daughter that her whole life has been dictated by his drinking. Good for him for getting into treatment. Good for you for supporting him. Something important to remember is that he will never not be an alcoholic. He worked hard for his sobriety, and what an accomplishment. If his sobriety was too fragile to go, then it is good that he did not. He will have to continue to make these decisions for the rest of his life. In essence, you made the choice between your daughter and your husband. She knew and did not care. It sounds like she was ready to be done with him, and you can't blame her after the way her life had been. You could have gone without him, and he may have understood. His relationship with alcohol may affect his choices, but it doesn't have to affect yours. I don't think you were an a-hole for not going and supporting your hubby's sobriety. You wouldn't have been the R to your husband if you'd gone. Your daughter is not the R for being done with a pattern of behavior from both you and your hubby that probably never put her first. Despite not being the a-hole, you will have to ask forgiveness if you want your daughter in your life. You might have to apologize for things that happened in childhood as well. And that's if she will let you. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe for more videos. See you all later.